All right, everybody. I hope you're doing well. Um, Today I've got a cool video about two very similar knives. They're both uh, based off the Mark II fighting knife from World War II. And I'm going to go ahead and show you the two knives, compare them, so anybody who's thinking about buying one or the other, you can make your choice based off of my side-by-side here. So. First off, we have the Ontario Knife Company 498. This is not the mod. This is the Marine Combat. It is, there you go, really tight in the sheath. Here's the knife. Now it doesn't come like this. I had to modify it slightly, but the modifications made it really sweet. Here's the sheath. Comes all black with the leather on the handle and the scabbard. Comes in a Ontario Knife Company sort of Gucci box with nothing inside of it except the knife. And the knife comes with a paper sleeve. Here we have a K-bar. Now this is not the USMC or the USN or the US Army. This is a single mark K-bar. Because I was not military, I don't feel right having the insignia, billboard on the side of my knife sheath. I'm going to carry it around. So I got the unmarked, I call it the single mark. Take it out of the sheath. Here's the knife. I don't know what the 12 whatever designation is for this, but this is essentially a Mark II knife. And here is the sheath. Smells really good. It came in this really cool K-bar box. I had this like little pamphlet in there. I don't know if you can tell that, but I really like that picture. That's exactly the sort of thing I bought this knife for. Not for fighting bears, but that mystique and that sort of cool factor of like, dang, somebody somewhere used a knife very similar to this and killed a bear when his gun malfunctioned, and they gave this knife that namesake, and to pay homage to that amazing feat and the quality of the type of knife. So I just think that's a cool image of a man fighting a bear, because the name K-bar means Kodiak bear. He shortened it. Some people say it's kill a bear, but it's Kodiak bear, because that's the kind of bear he took down. So anyways, we'll go ahead and get into it. I'll move these boxes out of the way and I'll just show you the knives. First off, I'll go with the sheaths, actually. Now these sheaths are similar but different in that, while the K-bar has a very nice smell and is this nice warm color, natural leather, the edges are not burnished. They are left not rough, but like just sanded, and the leather is thin. It is very thin leather. Now, the one plus it does have is that when these snaps open up, they fly away from the knife, which is a positive. When you draw this knife out, you unsnap it with your finger, these little straps here go flying away. So you don't have a risk of like slashing the little strap there with your blade as you pull your knife out. So that's a plus for this sheath. But this sheath right here from Ontario is much thicker. I don't know if you can see this, but you can see just how thick that Ontario sheath is compared to the K-bar sheath. It's ridiculous. This is a much heavier duty sheath, and it's cut in the same original military style with the scallops here. But again, the clasp does not fly away like the K-bar. So I've actually nicked this strap right here with my knife blade, pulling it out, because this does come really tight to the knife, which is nice, good retention. But I have nicked it. You can see right there. It's not a deep nick, it's just like a little scratch, but still like, oh shit, you know, that's the retention. So we'll go ahead and get into the two knives. I've modified this slightly because it needed some modification. This is a Ontario 498 Marine Combat. This is not the SP1. Similar, but it's different. It's made of 1095 carbon steel with 1095 guard and a centered end cap. This is a very close, the way I have it here, a very close copy of a Mark II fighting knife from World War II. Now, there are some pros and cons to this knife, not necessarily in the design, because everybody kind of knows about these knives, how they're put together if you watch any other videos. I'll go over that real quick, but the fit and the finish and the design are very close to how the original K-bars were. First off, the cons of this knife are the fit and finish were not exactly the nicest. They're forgivable, but they're not quality like the K-bar. This has a phosphate coating, which is correct to the military service knives. You can see I've sharpened it and used this knife a little bit already, and the coating is coming off a little bit. But it just adds cool factor because phosphate coatings are really cool. But I've definitely put it to a stone. It's a lot sharper than it was. It became very not sharp. The end cap here is not quite concentric or even. You can see how it's more pronounced on one side than the other. But what is correct is the pin that passes all the way through the tang and out the other side there, you can see on the butt cap. So there's a one pin going all the way through the back of the tang. That's correct. The other thing is this nice capital step at the top here where my index finger is. The guard does not slope down, it's just straight across. And it came with a round cross-section stacked leather handle, like perfectly circular, which bothered me because this knife had no, aside from gripping it up here, you couldn't tell where your edge alignment was, so it was kind of awkward and pretty fat in the middle. So what I did was I took it to a belt sander, I flattened it a little bit on both sides, and so now it has a nice sort of semi-augular cross section, and I thinned it out a little bit here because it had a really pronounced palm swell. So it's a lot more usable of a handle. It feels better in the hand, and all I had to do was just take a round file, put the grooves back in, stain it, and seal it with wax. I chose this like kind of blood red color, dark sort of ox blood, which is just a color choice I picked. But again, this knife came dull, and the fitment was a little awkward. I don't know what that's about because actually Ontario made more of these knives than K-bar, the company, did. So go figure. But now that this knife is fixed up, it's very nice, very quick, and it does have the correct sharpened swedge on the back here. That means this is a very effective spear point for defensive use, which is exactly why I have this as a defense knife with some minor utility, mostly opening boxes and whatever else, cutting things. Maybe working with a little bit of sticking or some woodwork, but mostly just small utility and primarily defense. It's got a nice correct fuller. The edge alignment, or the grind on the edges, are not perfect. You can definitely tell it's hand done, like hand sanded, but it's serviceable. Blade straight. So there's nothing, no canting or anything like that. But it definitely, you can, when you look at it, it's not, you know, perfectly symmetrical on the grind. It's not like the edge is wiggling. It's just the start down here at the ricasso. The grind is off to just one side if I'm really being anal about it. Says US Ontario stamped right there. That's the only marking on this knife, which is nice because again, I'm not military, so I don't have a need to have, you know, or the legitimate right to have a military, you know, insignia on my knives. Guns is a different thing where like you have arsenal markings and stuff like that, because I was never a Chinese, or I was never a communist slave, so carrying an AK or something like that, it's different for me as a US citizen. But yeah, that's the, oh, I forgot to mention there's a drain hole on this, which means you can add some cord or just let it sit. So overall, I give this knife like a out of 10 rating, maybe a 6 or 7. Cool factor really does a lot, but it came very dull, and I needed to modify the handle. But it was more inexpensive than the K-bar, and that allowed me to not feel as bad modifying it. I didn't do much to make it really cool, but it definitely makes it a much better knife. Still has that little palm swell in the middle, so that's what I like about it. It's very, very similar to what you would get issued in World War II if you received one of these Mark II knives. Well, that's the Ontario. Here we have the K-bar. Now, I'll show you the sheath. I'll tell you exactly what I mean by that retention coming away. So, now the one thing you will notice when you buy a K-bar, it smells great. They put this excellent sheath polish on. Neither of these sheaths are made in the US, but the knives are. Knives are 100% US made. It's just, this sheath smells like a really nice pair of new boots. I used to work as a cobbler, and I love the smell of the shoe polish wax we use. It's very reminiscent of this, and it's very pleasurable. I can even smell it when it's on my hip. I can smell it all the way from my hip when I'm wearing it. So it smells really good. Again, this is unmarked. It's a single mark. But the retention here, so if I'm grabbing this knife, I use my back fingers, and I'll just kind of do it with my finger here. Watch the straps fly away. Now, do it again. Because usually they sit like this. See how far away they flew? They are like bent away. I think they do this I think they wet mold it like that, because they are literally bent like a W, which means my knife has no chance of cutting the straps, which is perfect. That's a very good design. If this was a thicker sheath, like the Ontario, it'd be a perfect sheath for this knife, but it's really thin, very, very, very thin feeling. Now the knife itself is 1095 Crovan, which means it's the same steel as the Ontario, except they add chromium and vanadium, which means it has a little bit of corrosion resistance and a little bit of edge durability, more so than the regular 1095 carbon, which means it's a good knife steel. It's, you know, easy to sharp, pretty tough, so you're not going to be like chipping it or whatever. This, I'll go from the back here. There is a single pin entry point, so it's a blind hole, and it does not come out the side. So my guess is that it travels to about 3/4 of the way through the pommel and stops. So that's it's still just as strong as the through hole on the Ontario. It's just a different approach. Now it is a full tang. These people call these rat tangs, but a rat tang is like on a Mora, where it's very thin. This isn't quite that thin. It's about half the width of the blade itself. So whereas on a Mora knife, that's like a true rat tang, where it's very thin at the end. This is a little bit different. So this tang goes all the way through. The handle is very nice. Feels very much like a sword handle. It's ovular, so you can see how it's thinner and then it's wider. Very nice, slight swell in the palm, not not very pronounced. This is a design feature that is different from the World War II issued ones, at least the one that I have. Which again, I'll do a different video on that. But it's a little bit different. Very nice, because the oval shape is very, very nice. You can pick up where the edge is very fast. It has a nice big ricotta, so I can wrap my finger around for doing doing fine work. I'm using normal wood. The guard is bent down towards the hand. Let's see. There you go. So that's authentic to like an original Mark II. Has these flat spots near the top of the guard, or near the top of the handle. There's these polymer spacers here and here on the top and bottom of this leather stacks, which give it a nice finishing touch. Because this is just natural leather, like just waxed over or given a finish. This is a single mark, so it does not say USMC or like USN or anything on it. It says K-Bar, Olean, New York, right there. Does have a fuller correct to the knife. The swedge is not sharpened. It is a blunt swedge. But the rest of the blade is very sharp. It is much sharper than the Ontario out of the box. And the grind itself is perfect. It is a perfect edge geometry. There's no curve, there's no offset to one side. It is very impressive, because I think these are all ground by hand. So whoever the grinder guys are, they do a great job. Like even the bevel line here is straight across and nicely curved. There's no like wave in it. It's very nicely done. It's almost like a robot did it. But I've seen videos from inside the K-Bar factory in New York where they make these, and just dudes doing it by hand on a belt sander. So very, very cool. Now, this does have, instead of being parkerized, it's got this like Teflon type coating, like a very big, it's like a baked on Duracoat or like a powder coat. Very nice, sort of semi-gloss, more matte than gloss finish. Really cool. Definitely just a really nicely put together knife. I was very impressed with this. I like the look, the aesthetic. I like the big size of it. It's nice to carry around, and just feels good. I understand why these are so loved. So side by side, they're almost identical as far as the overall like general package. The blades are the same width or thickness. Oh, they don't look like that, but they're 0.17 inches thick, and the blades themselves are like the same profile. Maybe the Ontario is slightly thinner, like less wide, but they both have the fullers. Very, very similar weight. They're almost identical. I can't tell in the hand. Maybe the K-Bar gets in the weight a little bit heavier, but again, these aren't too dissimilar. Because of this sharpened swedge, the actual beveling is different at the top on the spine. This swedge section on K-Bar is longer, but it's not sharpened, whereas this is shorter and it is sharpened, which is a plus for the Ontario. Now you can see I have modified this handle. I've made it flatter on both sides because it's perfectly circular, which makes it really comfortable in the hand. Now out of the two, it is really hard to tell which one is more comfortable. What isn't hard to tell is the fit and finish. You look at this knife, it's very clean, perfect lines, like very little to pick apart. This Ontario, however, sort of sloppily stacked, and you can see how asymmetrical it is on the end cap there. It's bigger on one side than the other, and that's not because I did anything on this end or this end. I just sanded the finish off of it. What that is this stacking is slightly off center, and then what it does is makes the rest of the handle look off center because the actual pommel is centered to this. These are, you know, in the center. It's just the, like, all I did to modify this was take the finish off with sandpaper and flatten these two sides with a belt sander. So this the way this handle was already off center to begin with, which, you know, isn't too bad. It's not a huge downer, but that combined with the fact that I had to sharpen this quite a bit makes it just a little bit less desirable for, like, maybe a guy who doesn't like to do projects. If you just want the knife to have the knife, you don't want to customize it or whatever. The K-bar takes the edge there if you are not a project guy, but I like doing this kind of stuff. I like messing with knives and whatever, and making it perfect for me was a lot of fun. So sharpness tests, the K-bar takes the edge handily. This cuts paper like it's hot butter. I had to make this one remotely the same sharpness, so in doing so, like, using this, like, the finish comes off a little bit, which makes it's a cool thing. I don't think finish wear on knives is too bad. And this is a military, like, official military style finish. So parkerization is like standard military finish that is used on quite a few weapons, whereas this is a paint finish essentially. So it's different. It's not military spec, but that's just fine. Makes for a very pretty knife. Now, as far as for which one I prefer, given the heritage and the sort of namesake and everything, just for cool factor, the K-bar takes it, because it's just a cool thing to have a knife called K-bar, and the quality is excellent. These are wonderful knives. The Ontario, however, has the edge where it's very accurate to the milsurp, or the military spec, minus the weird round handle. This is very close to a Mark II, like traditional Mark II. So it takes points for being, like, authentic. So you'd have to decide which you prefer. You want easily a better beater, which means you can beat this one up because it's cheaper. You can use this more, abuse it. They're generally going to be the same sort of performance, like as far as longevity. It's just this one's not as pretty, and you got to do a little bit more work to it. This one comes very pretty, and all you have to do is sharpen it every once in a while. But I don't really know how to put it. You might feel worse using this knife more than you would with this knife, because it is, you know, rough and ready, whereas this one is very pristine and clean and really well done. So if that doesn't bother you using, like, nice stuff, that's fine. But overall, these are two very nice knives. One was a fun little miniature project. One is fun to just carry around. It's aesthetically nice and it smells really good. Can't say that enough. So that is the Ontario 498 Mark II style Marine Combat, modified by me, and the K-bar 12 whatever single mark. And yeah, that's these knives. Hope you enjoyed this video. I will be doing a video soon on how to do the splits. I've just been kind of busy. And oh yeah, here's a cool AK. So hope you have a good day, and I will talk to you later. Bye bye.